Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chanda Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Prakrita Kariya Mane Vishnu Kalevar Vishnu Ninda Ara Nahi Ihara Upar Prakrita Kariya Mane Vishnu Kalevar Vishnu Ninda Ara Nahi Ihara Upar Prakrita Kariya Mane Vishnu Kalevar Vishnu Ninda Ara Nahi Ihara Upar Prakrita Kariya Mane Vishnu Kalevar Vishnu Ninda Ara Nahi Ihara Upar Vishnu Ninda Ara Nahi Ihara Upar Prakrita Kariya Mane Vishnu Kalevar Vishnu Ninda Ara Nahi Ihara Upar Vishnu Ninda Ara Nahi Ihara Upar Prakrita Kariya Mane Vishnu Kalevar Vishnu Ninda Ara Nahi Ihara Upar Vishnu Ninda Ara Nahi Ihara Upar Someone else like to have a go? Okay, so we'll do it word for word translation now.
Prakrita, material. Gauriya, taking it to be so. Mane, accepts. Vishnu, Lord Vishnu's. Kalevara, body. Vishnu Ninda, defaming or blaspheming Lord Vishnu. Ara, beyond this. Nahi, none. Ihar, of this. Upara, above. Translation and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. One who considers the transcendental body of Lord Vishnu to be made of material nature is the greatest offender at the lotus feet of the Lord. There is no greater blasphemy against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Please repeat. One who considers the transcendental body of Lord Vishnu to be made of material nature is the greatest offender at the lotus feet of the Lord. There is no greater blasphemy against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami explains that the variegated personal feature of the Absolute Truth is the Vishnu Tattva, and that the material energy which creates this cosmic manifestation is the energy of Lord Vishnu. The creative force is merely the energy of the Lord, but the foolish conclude that because the Lord has distributed himself in an impersonal form, he has no separate existence. The impersonal Brahman, however, cannot possess energies, nor do the Vedic literatures state that Maya, the illusory energy, is covered by another Maya. There are hundreds and thousands of references, however, to Vishnu Maya, Parasya Shakti, or the energy of Lord Vishnu. In the Bhagavad Gita 7.14, Krishna refers to Mama Maya, my energy. Maya is controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is not that he is covered by Maya. Therefore, Lord Vishnu cannot be a product of the material energy. In the beginning of the Vedanta Sutra, it is said, Janmadiyasya yataha, indicating that the material energy is also an emanation of the Supreme Brahman. How then could he be covered by the material energy? If that were possible, material energy would be greater than the Supreme Brahman. Even these simple arguments, however, cannot be understood by the Mayavadi philosophers, and therefore the term Mayaya Parita Jnana, which is applied to them in the Bhagavad Gita, is extremely appropriate. Anyone who thinks that Lord Vishnu is a product of the material energy, as explained by Sadananda Yogindra, should immediately be understood to be insane, for his knowledge has been stolen by the illusory energy. Lord Vishnu cannot be placed within the category of the demigods, those who are actually bewildered by the Mayavada philosophy and are still in the darkness of ignorance. Consider Lord Vishnu to be a demigod. In defiance of the Rig Vedic mantra, Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Param, Vishnu is always in a superior position. This mantra is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Mattaha Parataram Nan Yat. There is no truth superior to Lord Krishna or Vishnu. Thus only those whose knowledge has been bewildered consider Lord Vishnu to be a demigod and therefore suggest that one may worship either Lord Vishnu, the goddess Kali, or whomever one likes and achieve the same result. This is an ignorant conclusion that is not accepted in the Bhagavad Gita 9.25, which distinctly says, Yanti Deva Vrata Devam, Yanti Madhyajino Pi Mam. The worshippers of the demigods will be promoted to the respective planets of the demigods, But devotees of the Supreme Lord will go back home, back to Godhead. Lord Krishna explains very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita 7:14 that his material energy is very difficult to overcome. Daivi hi esha guna mayi mama maya duratyaya. Maya's influence is so strong that even learned scholars and spiritualists are also covered by Maya and think themselves to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, however, to free oneself from the influence of Maya, one must surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As Krishna also states in the Bhagavad Gita 7:14, Mam eva ye prapadyante mayam etam taranti te. It is to be concluded, therefore, that Lord Vishnu does not belong to this material creation, but to the spiritual world. To misconceive Lord Vishnu to have a material body, or to equate him with the demigods, is the most offensive blasphemy against Lord Vishnu. And offenders against the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu cannot advance in spiritual knowledge. They are called Maya Parita Jnana, or those whose knowledge has been stolen by the influence of illusion. One who thinks that there is a difference between Lord Vishnu's body and his soul dwells in the darkest region of ignorance. There is no difference between Lord Vishnu's body and Vishnu's soul, for they are Advaya Jnana, one knowledge. In this world there is a difference between the material body and the spiritual soul, but in the spiritual world everything is spiritual and there are no such differences. The greatest offense of the Mayavadi philosophers is to consider Lord Vishnu and the living entities to be one and the same. In this connection, the Padma Purana states, Arche Vishnu Shiladhir Guru Shu Naramati Vaishnave Jati Buddhi Yasyava Naraki Saha. One who considers the Archamurti, the worshipable deity of Lord Vishnu, to be stone, the spiritual master to be an ordinary human being, and a Vaishnava to belong to a particular caste or creed, is possessed of hellish intelligence. One who follows such conclusions is doomed. Oma Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. There's an interesting pastime that relates to this verse in the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, where one Brahmana poet came from Bengal to present a poetic glorification of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was a friend of one of the devotees of Lord Chaitanya by the name of Bhagavan Acharya. And he was staying at the house of Bhagavan Acharya, and he was very friendly with him. So Bhagavan Acharya was putting forward to Swarup Damodar that this poem be read to Lord Chaitanya in glorification of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the process at that time was that if anybody wanted to present a drama or a poem or some glorification of the Lord, some philosophical presentation, first it would have to be vetted and accepted by Swarup Damodar. Swarup Damodar was, as we know, is Lord Chaitanya's personal secretary, personal servant. And Swarup Damodar would check that there was no rasa bas. So a bas means an overlapping, like the dawn is one kind of a bas where the night overlaps with the day. And a rasa abas is where there's different mellows are overlapping. So where Prabhupada gives the interesting detail of this. I won't go into it today, but there's a purport where Prabhupada explains there are three different kinds of abas, and one of them there is to actually have a certain type of describe a certain type of relationship with the Lord in a way that's not actually how it is, how the relationship is. It's combined, and especially one of them is to combine material concepts with spiritual concepts. So it's an overlapping of, it's fine to describe something material. Okay, this is how to fix a car, or this is how to do whatever. That's knowledge. That's fine. That's knowledge of the material world. It has to be understood. But to put material concepts onto the spiritual truth, that's what you call rasa bas, a combination, an overlapping of different mellows. It's not appreciated by the Vaishnavas. It certainly wasn't appreciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Sri Damodar would check everything. So this is all written in Caitanya Caritamrita as well, in the later parts. But the poem went like this, and he was presented to all the devotees. Finally, that Sri Damodar agreed to hear it. And the Bengal poet said this poem: "The Supreme Personality of Godhead has assumed a golden complexion and has become the soul of the body named Lord Jagannath, whose blooming lotus eyes are widely expanded. Thus he has appeared in Jagannath Puri and brought dull matter to life. May that Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya Dev bestow all good fortune upon you." So we might think this is a very nice glorification of the Lord. He's come to Jagannath Puri, he's brought life. And all the devotees were very happy to hear this, except Swarup Damodar was very unhappy to hear this. And he explained that you are describing the body of Lord Jagannath, the body of Lord Vishnu, as a material thing. You're saying this is dull matter, and this is very much rasabas, and this is a type of this is the type of Mayavadi idea that's being discussed in this verse. To say that the Lord has, like we do, has a body that is material nature, and then his soul is something separate. And he told that poet from Bengal he should actually study. He should study under a devotee, under a Vaishnava, and study Srimad Bhagavatam, and he'll actually come to understand what is the proper understanding. That the Supreme Lord is, his body is eternal. It is not a material combination as ours is. So in the purport here, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying that Vishnu is the source of energy. Vishnu is the Purusha. So we can read in many places there, Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Govinda or Krishna, he is actually the source. He's the Purusha, he's the controller of energies. And this is something that the Mayavadi philosophers, they don't accept that. The Vaishnavas explain that there is a difference between the Supreme Lord and the living entities. They're not one. So the reason this is a big offense to the Lord to say that he is a material body, because ultimately that philosophy is saying that there is no God. That's basically what you're saying. So if you say that the Lord, the Supreme Lord, he has a material body, you're saying that he is just a living entity. And of course the devotees, they are absorbed in service to the Lord. They're absorbed in extreme, intense, loving relationships with the Lord. So to say to someone that the person that you are completely in love with, having this eternal, pure spiritual relationship, does not exist, is the most offensive thing you could say. So this is Lord Chaitanya is saying this point that you cannot understand Krishna, you cannot understand the Supreme Lord if you approach him in that way, that he's just another living entity, he has a body just like us. The distinction is given in the Vedas, throughout Bhagavad Gita, as Prabhupada is saying, throughout all the Vedas, that there is a difference. There is the Purusha, that's the Supreme, Govindamadi Purusha, Tamaham Bhajami, and then there's the energy of Lord Vishnu. There's the energetic source, and then there's the energy. Just like we have the sun and the sunshine. We have the power station and the electricity. So there's the energetic source and the energy, and at the same time they are one. Because there's no meaning to a power station without electricity. The power station is important, it's potent because it produces electricity. The sun is important because it produces sunshine, which covers the whole universe. So in one sense they're not different, but still there is a difference between the source of that energy and the energy itself. And this is many times again and again described throughout the Vaishnava literature, throughout the Vedas. And Lord Caitanya says it in a nutshell in Caitanya Caritamrita: Jiva Swarupa Krishnera Nityadas, Krishnera Tatasta Shakti, Veda Veda Prakash. That the living entity, the Jiva, his Swarup, his own position, so Rupa means form in Sanskrit, and Sva means your own. So your own form, in other words, your original form, you're actually who you are as a person, as the beyond all of the beliefs, beyond the bodily identification, beyond the nationalism, beyond everything. The actual consciousness, the actual person that's experienced all of this world and these experiences that we're all experiencing. Lord Caitanya says that the actual form of that soul, that person, is Krishnera Nityadas, is an eternal servant of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, there's also that verse, Nityo Nityanam, Chaitanas Chaitananam, Eko Bahunam Yo, Vidadhati Kaman. There is one Supreme Eternal who's maintaining all the other eternal. So this is said so many times again and again. So Krishna, he gives this in Bhagavad Gita again, Apariyam itastvanyam prakritim vidi me param. Prakriti means energy again. Vidi, you should know. Me, my, param, superior. He says the same idea. Tatasta Shakti Veda Veda Prakash. He says the same idea in Bhagavad Gita. Itastvanyam prakritim vidi me param. Know that these souls, the jivas, they're my energy, he says. So in the Bhagavad Gita later on, Krishna actually flips this and he describes the living entity in relationship to the material world. He describes what is their consciousness. And although everywhere in the Vedas it said, Govindamadi Purusham, Tamaham Bhajami, the Supreme Purusha, that Arjuna calls him as well in the 10th chapter, Param Brahma Paranam Pavitram Paramam Brahman Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adideva Majovibum. So Purusham Shashvatam Divyam, you're the Divya eternal, you're the Divya transcendental Shashvatam eternal Purusha person. You're the source, he says to him. But when Arjuna asked Krishna in 15th chapter to explain this world, how it's all working, how the people are trying to achieve different things, and how the whole thing's going on, then Krishna points out something very important, and he describes the living entities as Purusha. Now, obviously he's not saying that's their Swarup, that's not their position, because everywhere in the Vedas, everywhere in Bhagavad Gita, he himself is saying, no, they're my energy. Maya dakshena prakriti, the material energy is my energy, but apariyam itastvanyam prakritim vedi me param, also living entities is my energy. But he says that energy comes in the material world and takes the position as the controller of energy. Takes that position artificially. So he says, Purusha prakriti sto hi, bhunkte prakriti jan gunam. So bhunkte means the enjoyer, to bhoja, to enjoy. He takes that Purusha prakriti sto hi. He calls the living entity, he's calling us, as that we're taking that position as Purusha. So this is the difference when Krishna is telling us very clearly that this is the difference between spiritual consciousness and material consciousness. This is the difference. The material consciousness is take the position of Purusha as the enjoyer, and I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer. This is material consciousness. And then spiritual consciousness is that I am the enjoyed. I am the enjoyed. I am to be enjoyed by Krishna. I am Prakriti, I am energy. And Krishna is the controller and enjoyer of energy. In Caitanya Charitamrita also, Kaviraj Goswami gives this distinction between what is real spiritual love and what is just the material lust. He says, Atmendriya priti vancha tare balikam Krishnendriya priti ichha dhare prema nam. The desire to gratify one's own senses is kama or lust, but the desire to please the senses of Lord Krishna is prema. Prabhupada writes in that purport, acts of sense gratification may be performed under the cover of public welfare, nationalism, religion, altruism, ethical codes, biblical codes, health directives, fruitive action, bashfulness, tolerance, personal comfort, liberation from material bondage, progress, family affection. There's a very long list here. I'll just go back to the beginning. Prabhupada's saying acts of sense gratification. All these things are acts of sense gratification. Okay? Liberation from material bondage, progress, family affection, or fear of social ostracism or legal punishment. But all these categories are different subdivisions of one substance, sense gratification. But above all this is a transcendental stage in which one feels himself to be only an eternal servitor of Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead. All acts performed in this sense of servitude are called pure love of God because they are performed for the absolute sense gratification of Sri Krishna. So here, the desire for liberation, which is the goal of the Mayavadi philosophers, they talk about liberation, getting liberated, becoming one, all these things. This is, by the Vaishnavas, is actually described as a type of sense gratification. It's described as sense gratification. And this is because the aspect here is that it is not spiritual because it doesn't have this idea of becoming the Prakriti, becoming the servant, becoming in taking the position of the enjoyed and controlled rather than the controller and enjoyer. In last class I was mentioning that in Ishopanishad verse 11, Vidyam cha yas tad Bedo vayam saha avidyaya mrityum tirtva vidyayam rita ashnute. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. So in that verse is being brought out these two simultaneous aspects of this process of spiritual perfection, which is that simultaneously the spiritual aspirant is getting free from material energy, getting free from repeated birth and death, and at the same time is becoming attached or becoming situated in the spiritual realm. So these are the two things are going on side by side. In Padma Purana, I believe it's Padma Purana, is described. I'm not sure about that, but the verse is there that the prime direction is that one should always remember Krishna, and one should never forget Krishna. So we might think, well, that's the same, isn't it? Remembering someone is not forgetting. And of course the two are connected. But also they're different. And the difference is that one should always remember Krishna is the direct. So this is the Vidyaya Amritam Ashnute. That's directly remembering Krishna, hearing, chanting, remembering Krishna. This is directly connecting to Krishna. This is Bhagavat. And the other part is never forgetting him. So not getting into illusion, not getting into the material cacophony that makes you forget your actual goal of life. These two things are going on simultaneously. And if we look at the Mayavadi process through the lens of this verse of Ishopanishad, then we can see that they in their process, basically they only take the first element. They take the first element, at least the first element in this verse. It's the second element in what I was just saying, but I'll go through it to be clear. But the first element is to avidyaya mrityum tirtva, to actually get free from the influence of the material world. So in the Mayavadi process, they're very good at neti, not this, being very renounced. Basically the process begins from taking sannyas. There's no sort of scope for being a householder and also renouncing material energy. They just think, well, no, you're not renounced. You're not heading towards liberation. You have a family, all these different things. So their process begins from just giving up all material activities. So this is their process, is getting free from the material energy. That's the first part of this verse of Ishopanishad. The second part of actually connecting to Krishna in the spiritual world, they don't do that second part. And if we look at this in terms of what Krishna talks about as far as the living entities who are ultimately Prakriti or energy, taking on that role of Purusha or controller of energy in material consciousness, we can see that in the Mayavadi philosophy, they never come to that point of becoming Prakriti. So Jivara Sarupoha Krishna and Nityadat, they never take that Krishnara Tatastha Shakti. They don't take that position, because in the conditioned stage they say, I am the controller of my senses, I am big sannyasi, I am Narayan, you are Narayan. They're like the Purusha, they're the controller, I'm the controller here. And then their perfection is also to become one with God. So in their perfection, they're also thinking, I will be the Purusha. Maybe I can't control everything now, but ultimately then I will control everything. So the Vaishnava philosophy, and what Krishna is giving in Bhagavad Gita very scientifically, is that is material consciousness. They look very spiritual, maybe very renounced, it may have very flowery Vedic words associated with it. But from the perspective of understanding this concept that Krishna is giving us, that material consciousness means you are taking the position of the enjoyer, and your spiritual, eternal position, your actual makeup of your soul is as the control, the enjoyed. You're meant to be enjoyed by Krishna. It's like when devotees are doing kirtan, when they're chanting kirtan and they feel some bliss, they think that, oh, I'm being enjoyed. I'm being enjoyed. Krishna is happy with what we're doing. Krishna must be pleased, we're feeling some bliss. But the Mayavadi philosophy, it never even attempts to go to that flipping that consciousness of, no, I'm not the control of the enjoyer, I'm meant to be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord. I remember I was listening to a class the other day, and HG Devagaurahari was talking about a program we went to back in the day in Brisbane, where the Mayavadi group was giving it. And it might have even been the same program that he was talking about, but I also remember that program, that at the end of the program, after about 3 or 4 days of feeding these people huge amounts of prasadam, Dhruva, you might remember if you were there. Do you remember that one? Were you there? Yeah, there was huge, it was like, we catered for it, and it was like 5 different meals. I don't know if there was much else about the program except them eating heaps of prasadam, which is good. It was definitely the most. It was definitely the most rasa that they got. I feel, but the interesting part for me was that at the end of all of that, they asked us to do kirtan. I remember we were sitting on the stage, and Ajita was leading the kirtan. I remember, so we're sitting there and we're starting up the kirtan. We started to chant, and after a couple of minutes, everyone in the audience, instead of just chanting Hare Krishna and thinking, yeah, we're chanting Hare Krishna, it's nice to chant Krishna's name, they all started to call out, Prema, Prema. And it's like, couldn't really understand what was going on. But a lot of them, they kept saying, Prema, Prema, come on, give us the Prema, give us the Prema. And it was a bit like that story that last time we gave class, I told the story about the brahmachari yogi that came into the kirtan of Lord Caitanya. Not to compare our kirtan with Lord Chaitanya's ecstatic kirtan in that sense, but in the sense that this kirtan never actually got very ecstatic. And I remember thinking at the time, well, if you just sit there and just try to chant, it might be good. But they kept sort of saying, they kept taking this position of the enjoyer. I'm meant to feel really good. Prema, where's the prema? Let me feel good, let me feel good. And actually, the kirtan kind of never really got off the ground. It wasn't a really, and we used to, there was a lot of us young guys living in the temple, and we used to have huge kirtans going for ages and feel very happy glorifying Krishna. But this idea was, I want to enjoy, I'm the enjoyer, and it's really anathema to bhakti. It's really, the opposite of bhakti. Bhakti is something actually spiritual, something that's actually beyond the material world. This idea that we are the enjoyer according to Krishna is a material conception. So Lord Chaitanya, he was very serious about these points of philosophy and about his devotees understanding that, and also not hearing philosophies that presented these ideas. One time Lord Chaitanya he took the position of the Lord. So generally he took the position as a devotee. That's his pastime. He took the position as a devotee to show us how to be a devotee, and for his own internal reason to experience this, what we're talking about, this idea of being the control, being the dependent one. Shiradhara bhavalaya Chaitanya avatar yugadhama nama prema kaila prachar. So he came to experience that love of his greatest devotee, that he doesn't experience as being the Lord, as being the controller. He doesn't experience that dependence, or how his devotees feel when he leaves in separation from him, that intense bliss that the devotees are feeling. That's the only thing he didn't experience. So he came to experience that. And this is completely tied up in his second purpose, which is to spread the Yuga Dharma, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Because this is the mood of bhakti, of chanting, of being the enjoyed. I'm the enjoyed. I'm dependent on the Lord. We just chanted the Shikshastakam. There's so many verses there that are saying that. So one time, although Lord Chaitanya normally acted as a devotee, and if somebody said you're Vishnu, he would cover his ears and say, no, don't cause this offense. You can't call a living entity like Vishnu. That was his general demeanor, his general mood. But one time he actually took the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He did sometimes to different devotees, to a Brahmana that came when he was a little boy, and he would take the offering, and then he actually revealed to that Brahmana that he is Krishna. He told him, well, you asked me. You asked me to come and take it, so no, I ate it, so why are you complaining? So, to different people sometimes, but this one time is called the Mahaprakash, where Lord Chaitanya in Srivas Thakur's house, he actually manifested himself as the Supreme Lord, and he gave blessings to everybody. He fulfilled the desires of everybody. Whatever was their spiritual longing, whatever their spiritual situation that they were wanting to enter into, whatever their ultimate goal, he just very freely. And at that time, I was devoting a